Hello, and welcome to the Academic Center for Writing presentation on the literary element of narrative. This presentation was written by Judson Wood and Scott Powers, writing specialists at Mountain View College. Narrative refers to the way an account of events is presented or narrated. Stories, or narratives, may be presented in innumerable forms. Journalism relies on narrative to deliver the news, answering the 5 W questions: who, what, when, where, and why or how. Literature presents narratives as text to be read and interpreted by its audience. However, poetry, song lyrics, paintings, graphic novels, photographs, and sculpture are also effective as forms of narrative. The narrator, or storyteller, presents the information in whichever form from which the audience must derive meaning. Although narrative can be narrowed to the simple sequence of events, as in a news story, in literature and the arts the general goals are to elicit or share emotional experiences. Point of view becomes the critical element of narrative, as it controls from what perspective the information is conveyed. History tells the narratives of the human species, from prehistoric cave drawings to 24-hour news via satellite. Recording and communicating these stories seems an essential component in human cultures. Most pre-literate peoples used easy-to-remember verbal narratives to pass on cultural values. Mythologies and epic tales were told as people tried to grasp and explain things they saw every day, such as the transits of the sun and moon and the passing of seasons. Chinese, Greek, Roman, Norse, and Germanic myths and sagas all shared aspects of explaining the phenomena of human existence. The Greek bard Homer was the first storyteller known to write records of epic spoken narratives that had been handed down over generations, the Iliad and the Odyssey. Aesop's fables and biblical parables made understanding difficult theological concepts easier and taught moral lessons in the process. Children's nursery rhymes, such as Mother Goose and Kipling's Just So stories, are easy narratives for young minds to grasp and remember. The role of the narrative is to record, present, and communicate events or ideas that bear repeating. Narration makes facts and ideas easier to remember. A narrative creates interest and common ground because people live out stories and spend their time in a course of events rather than in a mechanistic gathering of facts or grasping of concepts. Storylines flow and interconnect. Psychology incorporates self-narrative as the source of individual identity and the interruption of the normal discourse of narrative to constitute a source of mental illness or psychosis. Sociology often employs narrative inquiry to define cultural experiences absent enough case studies for statistical analysis. In literary terms, narrative is the mode by which fiction is written, and the role and perspective of the narration are critical to the audience's perception of the work. Point of view serves as the voice of the story, and the way events are experienced or described. A first-person narrator tells the story as the principal actor within it, not only an observer, but an active participant in the events. Third-person limited narration observes the action and may or may not be directly involved in it. This narrator can tell the events, but without the insight or emotional attachment of a first-person narrator. Third-person omniscient narration provides glimpses into all aspects of the world of the narrative, including backgrounds, emotions, and motivations for everything that occurs within the narrative. As has been discussed throughout this presentation, whoever tells the story indelibly colors the way the audience perceives it. If an older man tried to narrate Huckleberry Finn, Twain could not have conveyed the candor and humor as effectively as when told by a 13-year-old boy. By the same token, if Oliver Twist had been told by Oliver himself, the audience may not have shared the sympathetic view of him that Dickens intended with his use of a biased but distant narrator. Finally, in the novel, not the film, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, the audience never questions the validity or reliability of Chief Bromden as the narrator, even though the story tells us he is in an insane asylum for schizophrenia. Thank you for watching this presentation on the literary element of narrative. For questions about this or any other aspect of writing, please visit the Academic Center for Writing in room W114. Thanks again for watching.